This is the third attempt at me recording this video. I did a 7-minute version, and then I did an 18-minute version. And it was originally just going to be an intro, and I was going to jump right into the NFC North predictions, but that is not going to happen in this video. So right now, I'll tell you, this is not a football video. And if that's what you were looking for, I apologize. I'll probably come out with one later today, but this ain't it. 2 years ago, on May 24th, 2018, I put out a video expressing my support for NFL players taking a knee during the national anthem. I thought it was their right to protest and to express their free speech. And that entire week, I went back and checked. I think I had a total of about 8 subscribers that next week because so many people had unsubscribed. And at that point, I obviously was nowhere near the subscriber number that I am now. There were comments, saying that I used to support you, now I don't. And I understood their viewpoint. And I understand that this might also lose subscribers. But I am not going to let that get in the way of my morals. And I think it would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't say anything and I just kept on going with things as usual. I've been putting out content at least 5 days a week since August, so 9 months. And especially during the quarantine and as we get deeper into the off season, it gets more and more difficult to do that. I still have plenty to talk about, obviously, but I wanted to do it during quarantine, especially because with everyone home and obviously so much uncertainty and just the unease that is in the air right now all over the world, I wanted to help in the tiniest, minuscule way that I could. And if I could allow people to escape for 5 to 10 minutes a day because they're watching some idiot in his basement surrounded by Packers stuff, then I thought that I should do that. I obviously love making content, but I was beyond happy to do that and provide that escape. However, there are also some things that we shouldn't look to ignore or look to get away from or look to escape. And what's happening right now in this country is one of those things. And the problem is that this is not the first time that it has happened. It happens over and over and over again, and it happens the same exact way every single time. Last week, you saw a terrible example of police brutality. There were 4 police officers, and their actions resulted in the death of George Floyd. What has followed were peaceful protests. You had the officer get brought into custody and charged. And, of course, what has happened after that is that there have been people who have taken advantage of this situation and have begun looting and vandalizing. And so the narrative has gone from police brutality and the treatment of Black Americans by law enforcement to now let's group them all together and point the finger and go, look how bad that is. And obviously, social media is not an exact reflection of what goes on in real life. But it seems like the battle lines have been drawn once again, in which you support the people that are protesting, which also means that you support the people that are looting, or you have to support law enforcement, and there's no middle ground. And it's the generalization that occurs that leads to absolutely nothing getting done. You can support the peaceful protesters and also not support the people who are looting and vandalizing and destroying small businesses, etc. You can do both. You could also support law enforcement and also acknowledge that police brutality is a problem and that something needs to change, especially when people are dying because of it. But instead, we have to get so politicized that depending on what letter we have next to our name, whether it's an R or a D, that determines how we think, or it depends on what media we are watching, and they're saying, hey, no, this is what you should think as we group people together. And it leads to things not changing. And things need to change. One of the reasons why people weren't supportive of Colin Kaepernick kneeling with other players was because they said it was disrespectful to our country, and they said it was disrespectful to our flag and our veterans. And I understand that viewpoint. I would also argue that this country also has a history of disrespecting our veterans, whether it's the lack of care that they are given when they come home, or if you want to talk about something that directly relates to what is going on in this country right now, look at the GI Bill after World War II, in which the government goes, hey, you just went off and fought World War II. Here is something that is going to lift you up in society. You're going to get access to low-interest mortgage loans. You'll be able to buy a home, go to school, etc. Right? Which is a great thing. It's what many of your grandparents probably utilized, right? Because they were given that opportunity. Hell, in New York and New Jersey, you had over 60,000 of those mortgages insured by the GI Bill. You know who that wasn't given to? Black veterans. In New York and New Jersey, less than 100. 100 Black veterans had access to that. Banks would not serve them. Mortgage agencies would not serve them. They weren't able to go to schools, and so because of that, they had to go to historically Black colleges and universities, which overpopulated those areas. And so what do you think that does for their children and their grandchildren? It just continues to expand the poverty gap, the education gap, etc. And so while I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that I support someone going and burning down a small business, I can also understand the frustration and anger because of people who say that it doesn't exist. And I've had many conversations with supporters and fans on whether it's social media or whether it's through here, talking, and they have various viewpoints, some that are very different from my own. And they're like, this is not the biggest problem going on in the world, or this doesn't pertain to me as much, but the media keeps on throwing it in my face. Well, if this doesn't impact you, that's great. That's wonderful. But for other Americans, it impacts them every day. And the fact that I need to worry about a former student of mine going out into the world and they may be targeted and they may be hurt or killed because they look different is disgusting. And I'm tired of having this conversation every single time that it happens, but I can only imagine how exhausting it must be for somebody who is living it. We can't keep talking about racism as if it was a thing in the past, because the things that occurred in the not so distant past have direct ramifications on what is going on right now. So if you're saying that you didn't support Colin Kaepernick because it offended the veterans, then what about the veterans who didn't get access to all the things that white veterans got access to? And because of that, they could not make their lives better. So I apologize that this video is not about football, because there are some things that are beyond football and some things that we really need to look at. I implore you, if you can, to donate your time, your money, your effort, your support to the groups that are out there that you believe in and are trying to make a difference. And if this video delays me in getting 100,000 subscribers because a bunch of you unsubscribed, it is what it is, honestly, because the channel's not named Packcasts, it's my name. Because that's what you get. You get me. This is not an act. I don't change as soon as the cameras go off. So there will be another episode about football, but I honestly just could not do one right now. So please, when you talk to people, listen. Listen, and don't just wait until they're done so you can get your point in. Actively listen and have a conversation, because only when we listen and try to understand what someone is going through, maybe we can understand their actions, and maybe we could get behind why they want things to change. And I really, really hope that they do. I hope you are well, and I hope that you are safe. We'll talk soon.